Hello everyone, this is the dissertation proposal presentation from Travis, Jiang, Yiteng, and I'm currently studying in the University of Hong Kong in the Faculty of Education. Specialism is designing powerful learning environment. Please enjoy. So the title of this proposal is Promoting Senior Secondary EFL Chinese Students Volunteer Reading Through Collaborative Learning and Motivational Strategies. The basic structure of this presentation has 6 parts. They are introductions, which include background information and objective of study, and literature review, research questions, research methodology, including research design, data collection, and data analysis, and improvements and limitations and challenges. Alright, so volunteer reading refers to students themselves choosing the reading material they like to read. So they engage in reading process spontaneously. And volunteer reading is critical for students who learn English as second language for them to acquire this language. Collaborative learning is found to be beneficial for them to increase their motivation. And also, expectancy value theory, self-autonomy, and interest theory are long being recognized as predominant workable motivational practice. So all of these are serving the bedrock for the success of this intervention. There are 4 objectives of this study. The first is to implement this motivational intervention program in a senior secondary school in mainland China. Second, examine the motivation gains and reading volumes of participants in experimental group compared with those of control group. And the third, examine the motivational behavior of participants in experimental group during the collaborative learning. And the final, examine the participants' experience and the fields of this program. Decades of research have found that simply reading more is going to significantly enhance the student's reading achievement. And for students who learn English as second language, read more is going to help them to gradually acquire the language. But the worrying phenomenon is that the students' motivation is deteriorating over the years, so the people read less and less. According to expectancy value theory, students choose to engage in one thing because he or she thinks he can succeed the task and he or she value the task. So this makes the reading material comprehensible to students particularly important. We're doing so by calculating the reading task difficulty through the website called Readability Formula, which is invented by Jiang and Dale in 1995. Interest theory have demonstrated that students are going to pursue the activity because they are interested in one thing. And interest could be triggered either by being told the relevance or self-generate the relevance of this one thing to their lives. And promoting self-autonomy is also important, so we're going to let the student to choose the reading material by themselves. Also, collaborative learning has demonstrated its effect for promoting motivation. So there are 3 research gaps here. The first is that most reading intervention program aims to teach students reading strategy. Few targets on reading motivation. And the second research gap is that for program which targets on reading motivation, they can be very costly and requires heavy amount of teacher training curriculum development. The reading motivation program, which is easy to implement and requires little training for teachers, is particularly lacking. For programs that are only targeting on reading motivation is very, very rare. And third gap is the motivational benefits of collaborative learning are well documented, but less is known about what taught behaviors in collaborative learning can predict the extent to which the motivational gains. There are a total of 3 research questions. The first, can this motivation intervention program promote experimental groups' volunteer reading activity and improve reading motivation compared to the control group? Well, these expected from motivational gains result from this program being preserved after 1 month later. The second question is, some students might demonstrate more volunteer reading behaviors than the others after collaborative learning activity. Why does this happen? Is there any correlation between certain collaborative learning behaviors and subsequent volunteer reading actions? The final question is, what are the participants and teachers' views of this program? What things they do like or dislike, what works, what doesn't work, according to them, and reasons of why. So the research setting is, I'm going to work with a senior secondary school in mainland of China. I randomly select 18 students from a class of 40 will be the participants. They are all grade 9 students who just begun their high school career. Programs start from the middle of April to the end of May. A total of 15 sessions are included. Each session lasted approximately 50 minutes. English is teaching subject. As for instructional design, the first section will begin with pre-testing of reading ability and reading motivation, and briefly discuss the relevance of English reading, and randomly select 18 students out of a total of 40. The second section begins with telling the experimental group their reading ability and then choose the reading material they like to read. After individual approximately 15 minutes reading, they are going to join the jigsaw collective reading activity. The grouping of jigsaws depends on the choice of reading material. Video recording will be arranged. After jigsaw, they are asked to reflect on their relevance of reading to their academic lives. So after reflection, they will be presented several reading material. Each one will be required to choose at least one, and any extra reading material will be counted as voluntary reading action, and they are also welcome to approach me to ask for more reading material. The same material will also be presented to the control group. The session 2 to session 14 are essentially the same. So the last session with session 15 is the end of May, will be devoted to the poll test of reading ability and reading motivation, and the subsequent interview will be arranged as soon as possible. At the end of June, which is 1 month later, another reading motivation questionnaire will be administered. This study is both case study and experiment. Quantitative and qualitative data are going to be collected. As for quantitative, pre- and post-test reading ability and reading motivation, voluntary reading volume, and qualified video recording and behavior analysis. As for qualitative data, video recording of participants' collaborative learning, and interview with both participants and teacher, mandatory weekly learning diary. So in order to answer the question, can this motivational intervention program promote voluntary reading activity, reading achievement, and improve students' reading motivation? And can the motivational gain result from this program being preserved after 1 month later? Will be answered by 3 types of data. The first is pre- and post-test of reading ability and reading motivation. Questionnaire questions such as, I enjoy reading because I naturally like to. I enjoy reading when nobody gives me the incentive will be asked, and voluntary reading volume, and the mandatory weekly learning diary. To answer the question, some students might attain more motivational gains than the others. Why does this happen? Is there any correlation between certain collaborative learning behaviors and subsequent voluntary reading actions? We're going to answer them by 2 types of data. The first is video recording of participants' collaborative learning. Because each session, the group composition is going to be different. It depends on their reading material choose. We are expect to see that the students are moving from groups to group in order to reach the maximum group cohesiveness. So we want to see if this action will result in the more motivational reading behavior. And the second type of data is quantified video recording data. We're going to count the numbers of behaviors such as help seeking, checking the vocabulary, etc. To answer the final question, what are the participants and teachers' view of this program? What things they do like or dislike, and the reasons of why? We're going to ask the participants and teachers questions. We're going to ask student questions as, what do you like the most in the program? What things you dislike the most, and why? What do you think was most effective for you? And we're gonna ask the teacher a question as, do you observe differences in students' behavior who receive the intervention, and what do you think are the reasons why? A lot of improvements have been made since the original research proposal. In the original proposal, sample size was too small to do quantitative research. There was total 20 students. That was too small. And in the revised version, I have 40 students to do quantitative research, which is enough, but I also have 40 students to do quantitative analysis. That was too large to conduct quantitative analysis. So in this study, I have 18 students to conduct quantitative analysis and total 40 to compare the effectiveness of the whole intervention. Also, in the original proposal, the detailed instruction was lacking. So in this one, I combined 3 research theory practice with collaborative learning and with detailed instructional design in the page of instructional design. So you can see the detail of the whole study. Also, the research math and the research question were not complementary to each other. So it was not adequate enough to investigate the problem fully. So in this study, I'm not only investigating whether or not the intervention will succeed, I also investigate why it worked for someone, why it doesn't work for someone. So the whole study is much more enriched. Also, in original proposal, there was no comparison group, so the effectiveness of the intervention might be in doubt. So in this study, I have comparison group to see the difference between the control group and the experimental group. There are a lot of challenges. The first is participants are not experienced for collaborative learning, and they are generally chronically underachiever, and their learning motivation is very low. And some of them might even demonstrate destructive behavior during the experiment. And also, high pressure for examination might suppress students' reading motivation and volunteer reading behaviors. All of these could jeopardize the result of this program. So there are main 3 limitations. The first is the time of intervention is too short. So students might only demonstrate a volunteer reading activity at a very late stage of the intervention. So next one is, since we're combining 3 motivational strategy practice and collaborative learning together, there's no way for us to sort out which strategy works the best. And the final one, which worries me the most, is internal validity issue. Since I don't have as much contact with the control group as with the experimental group, the control group might not ask for me for learning material simply because they are not familiar with me. That is to say, the expected volunteer reading behavior differences from 2 groups could partially be attributed to their different familiarity with me. Further limitations are, there's not a lot of explicit strategy for teaching students reading comprehension except from summarizing, and due to a short period of time, reading ability gains might be negligible. And second is, the question are not whether or not the reading motivation will be preserved 1 month later is in great doubt, since not just because the effectiveness of this program, but also because the June is a critical month for students to prepare their test. So there's a lot of pressure coming from the teachers' parents, which could jeopardize their learning motivation. And the third is that since the source of their reading volume is partially come from their weekly learning diary, there's no guarantee they actually read it. And the next one is, students in collaborative reading might choose to group together simply because they are more familiarized with each other. So they might choose the inappropriate reading difficulty level, which could in turn jeopardize the effectiveness of this intervention. Also, the last one is, the observation scheme needs to be further polished, and the reading questionnaire needs to be ensured to be comprehensible to Chinese students. This page is selected references in the literature review section. Thank you so much for watching this presentation, and please do leave your comments below. We can discuss together. Have a good day.